I'm Natalie Kunzman, MD, and today we are talking about sage. And the reason we're talking about this is this one came from a request of a viewer. Sage is actually in the mint family of the salvia species, and similar herbs in that family are rosemary, thyme, oregano, basil, and then of course we have sage and a few others. So it originates in the Mediterranean, and sage, again, which is called Salvia officinalis, was used by the Romans initially in their food in an effort to help them digest some of their fattier meats. And there was a military physician that was using it sometimes to stop bleeding. And again, it was mostly for gastric issues by the Romans. But now the Egyptians around that time were using sage for fertility issues. Then in France, it was used primarily as a tea. Then we have an emperor in Germany who was using it presumably for medicinal reasons, as far as the ancient texts are presuming. Now, the monasteries were using it, and they had about 10 to 12 different variations of them, and they were using them in the monasteries. And then the Chinese were using them primarily for medicinal purposes, and again, the stomach, digestive, and the nervous system. And then they found some anti-infective benefits for typhoid fever and colds and joint pain. So you can see we have an ancient origin of sage. So in today's world, what can sage be used for, or what do we propose it is good for? Now, there is a lot of Native American use for this in the spiritual and the energetic arena, as sage used with sage smudge sticks, which I have here. We use these in our house. So this is a bundle of sage for smudging, and yet a bigger one. So again, the Native Americans and those of us in the energetic world will use this as a source for clearing the space, clearing the energy from previous negativity, and actually behaving almost in an anti-effective, clearing any of the debris that is in the air so that your energetic space can be used for its intended purpose. There is a journal of integrative and traditional and complementary medicine that does a lot of vetting of the research that is out regarding some of the ancient strategies. And where sage is concerned, it has a lot of research under its belt. And again, don't forget, some of our medicines that we have its origins and derivations from the plant family. So sage has a lot of antioxidant capabilities, and it can protect the body from oxidative stresses. And it is secondary to several of the flavonoids and polyphenols that are within the plant and the stem, and actually some of the flowers. So it is proposed to help with memory, and some of that is related to cerebral ischemia, some of it is related to some depressive effects, but there seems to be some research with it helping to clear beta amyloid plaquing and use for potentially Alzheimer's disease prevention. So there is the concentration end of it and the dementia end of it. And as far as improving memory, let us not forget in its ancient times, there has been a phrase such as the wise old sage, which implies somebody of great wisdom. So this was known for many, many, many years. So we propose that there is some potential benefit for the diabetic patient because it has some lowering of the glucose in some of the mice models and the rat models that we've been using. And it does not seem to promote excessive extraneous insulin production from the pancreas. Of course, it is not liver toxic. And in some studies, they are already proposing it to be almost equal to metformin's benefit. Now, cancer. It is proposed that those mice that have had a higher sage infusion in their diets can slow the growth of a tumor by cutting down angiogenesis. In other words, it cuts down creating the blood supply to the tumor. Colorectal cancer seems to have a lot of benefits with this as well in our earlier studies. So we believe that there is cholesterol benefit, and in that regard, it has a tendency to increase the good HDL, has a tendency to lower the HDL, and has some benefit for the triglycerides, which can be a bugger to try to treat. Obesity. So it has a lot of benefits with the obese population. It can aid by increasing lipase, which helps with lipid digestion, and lipase, of course, is secreted from the pancreas. Hot flashes. This is a lesser known but equal benefit to sage for those menopausal women who have a lot of vasomotor symptoms and heat flashing, heat flushing, and it seems to help with the sweating and the dizziness and the headaches and some palpitations. And this has been well utilized in the Chinese population. Antibacterial benefits from sage. And they are actually proposing the benefit to be from the Enterobacter family and the Proteus family, as well as potentially the Bacillus family with a couple of those strains. So don't forget, we can use this sage in an oil immersion, in a tablet preparation, or as a tea. And of course, when we are using it as a spice, it is dried out and just simply eaten and has a wonderful flavor. Now, to that note with eating, sage has been noted to, again, help with emulsification of our fats, but also anti-diarrheal activity, especially if we have a pro-motility issue. In other words, that the motility of the bowel is quite fast. This will behave as a gut relaxant. So, is there any toxicity of sage? We believe not, as there are no studies showing that. So in conclusion, I may say to go pick up some sage for your tea or some tablet forms if you have any one of these conditions, or if you find yourself coming down with a cold. And one little small tidbit for those that get fever blisters from the herpes virus, a cyclovir, which is a prescription antiviral, can cut down symptoms in 6 days, and sage, by making it a small paste and putting it on your lesions, as well as ingesting it, will take 7 days. So you decide which is the most beneficial for you. Again, I'm Natalie Kunzman, MD. Until we meet again, be well.